All right, so thank you guys for being here. We're going to go over the Mathematician project directions. So the Mathematician research project is in a purple folder on the bottom of your page. It says weeks 16 through 18 because we're going to be doing it for 3 weeks. So there is no new math. There is no new anything coming to your class. This is what we're doing the next 3 weeks. So you can plan out your next 3 weeks after this meeting about everything that's going to happen. So if you go into here, you get everything that we're doing for the next 3 weeks. The first thing that you need to click on is the Mathematician project directions. So when you click on that, it brings you over here. And the first thing that you're going to need to do to this is a Google Doc. This is the Google Doc everybody looks at. So when you come down and you scroll down, you're going to see that there's spots. There's a lot of directions. And then down here, there's spots for you to type. And you're going to notice that you cannot type in them. That's because you do not have editing rights. So in order to get editing rights, you have to make a copy. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, Make a Copy. Click on that. And then what I want you to do is put your name on it. So whatever your name is, if your name was Bob Brown, you would write Bob Brown's copy. Or just Bob Brown's Mathematician Research Project. But save your name in the title, because when these get sent to me, I'm going to get 170 of them. And it's going to be much easier to grade them if they have your name on them. The link is in your math class. There's no link that I'm sending. It's in your math class. And this is the 6th grade, but it's the same for Honors Math 6, Math 7, and Honors Pre-Algebra. At the very bottom of your course, in the week 16 through 18 Mathematician Research Project folder, this is the first thing in the folder, the Mathematician Project directions. And the first thing you need to do is, we're going to go over that, don't worry, making a copy and putting your name on it. So Bob Brown, or Adrian Smith, or Elena Rydberg, or Ali Forte, or whatever your name is. That was just the names of the people who I could see on my thing right now. Mathematician Research Project. Then you'll click OK, and then you will be able to edit the document and do whatever you want on it, okay? So we're going to go through some of the directions here. Make sure you guys understand everything, because this is our last class connect, okay? So there's 4 parts of this project. So all you have to do is go to File, Make a Copy. File, Make a Copy. Okay? All right, so there's 4 parts of this project. There's your Let Me Introduce research. There's going to be a visual component. You're going to do a peer review, and then you're going to do a video presentation. So the first thing you're going to do is start by choosing a mathematician, either from the list below, or you can pick someone else. If you're going to pick someone else, you have to get it approved by me. So the list is on this document. It's right over here. It's also in this folder. The list of possible mathematicians has the same list. These are all mathematicians who I know for a fact there is enough information on them online for you to complete the whole project, for you to answer all the questions, for you to do everything, okay? These are people who are all really, really important. They've come from, some of them are still alive, some of them were alive 1,000 years ago, somewhere in between. They're from all over the world. They have all different backgrounds and cultures. So this is a really, really good list to look at. One thing that I like to suggest people do is look for someone who has something in common with them. So for me, I would say, you know, I'm a woman, so I might look for someone who was a woman. Or maybe I would want to look for someone who has a similar background. My family comes from Sweden and Norway, so I might look for someone who comes from Sweden and Norway. And you're right, we did that part already. We one time looked up mathematicians that had something in common with us. But we're going to be doing a lot more with that information this time than we did before. Okay? So, if you can find someone, or if you see the person on here who, when we did the mathematician, was something in common before, that's awesome, and you could use that person, okay? But otherwise, I really recommend looking up some of these people and picking someone who you really think they sound interesting, they sound like someone who is going to be a good person to focus on, okay? Who you think that being able to spend 3 weeks reading about them is going to be interesting. So once you pick your mathematician, you can go down, and in week 16, there's 2 things that are due. So that's this week. This week, there's 2 things due once you pick your mathematician. So once you've chosen your mathematician, the first thing you're going to do is sign up for the mathematician you chose to study. So this is a Google form. You're going to tell me your name, who you chose to study, and why you think they are interesting. At least 2 interesting things that you found about them. You have to do the mathematician sign up no matter who you do. If you decide that you're going to go off that list, you're going to pick someone totally different who's not on that list, that's fine. You just need to send me an email before you start any other part of the project, including this form. You need to send me an email or a Schoology message and just say, hey, Ms. Tenebra, I want to study whoever it is you want to study. Will that person work? And then I can go do a little research of my own and make sure there's enough information available on that person for you to be able to do the whole project. There's some people who you can look up and you're going to find a lot of information on them, and it's going to be a little bit different. Albert Einstein is not an option. And the reason for that is because Albert Einstein did absolutely do math. He was absolutely a mathematician. However, most of the research you're going to do when you're reading about him is going to be about the science he did. And it's actually going to be really, really challenging to only figure out which things are his important math contributions versus his science contributions. Lincoln, we're not doing that right now. We're done. Stop. So Albert Einstein is actually going to be really, really, really hard. So I do not have him listed as an option, okay? You have to do the sign up, even if you pick up the list. Everyone has to do the sign up so that I know who everybody chose. So everybody is doing the sign up. If you choose someone who is not on the list, before you do the sign up, you have to email me. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up reaction. Awesome. Thank you. Love it. All right. After you do the sign up, the other thing let's do this week is the Mathematician Choice Flipgrid. So for the Flipgrid, you're going to be going in, and all you're doing for the Mathematician Choice Flipgrid is you are going to be going in and sharing. This is what it looks like for me, not you. So you're going to tell me which mathematician you chose for the project and at least 2 interesting things you've already learned about them. So this is the same thing you already filled out in that form, but now you're going to make a video and share it with your classmates, okay? And then you can go watch and comment on your classmates' videos if you would like, okay? Those are the only 2 things due this week, okay? So after you choose your mathematician, those are the 2 things due this week. However, if you look at the timeline, that's not the only things that it says you should do. It says you should keep working. The Google form and everything else that I'm talking about is in the folder. So this is in the week 16 through 18 Mathematician Research Project. folder. And if you scroll to the bottom, there's 3 folders for the things that you have to turn in. So week 16 activities due. You have to turn in these 2 things this week. Gavin, you have a question?
This week is it pretty much like a week to work on overdue stuff since there's not that much to do this week?
No, this is a week to get started on the project. And then we are going to be starting. So if you see, we're going to find sources and we're going to fill in some parts for Friday. So early in the week, yeah, there was a lot of time to work on overdue stuff because there wasn't a lot to do on Monday and Tuesday. The rest of the week, you know, if you want to work on overdue stuff, you can do that as well. But we are going to be getting started on our research as well this week.
Okay.
Good question. Caleb, do you have a question?
I was looking at it during this. I was wondering where I could find the parts A, B, C, and D, and the rest of them.
I'm going to show you that in just a moment.
Okay.
All right. So that is the choosing our mathematician part, okay? So after you've chosen your mathematician, the next part, and it says on our Friday, find sources, finish words A, B, C, D, E. So that is down here in the let me introduce section. So this is where you're going to fill in your information as you're finding it. Yes, this project goes until week 18. Okay? So in here, this is where you're going to start typing your information. So biostatistics, this would be your person's name. So you'll type your person's name. Their lifespan is when they lived and when they died, where they were born, how old they were when they died. Then 3 historic world events. So this is your A, B, C, D, and E. That's these sections. So this week, your goal is to fill out through E. If they're not dead, you would write still living. They're not dead, you would write still living on their age at death. You would just write still alive. Caleb, do you have a question or was that left from last time? Okay. All right, 3 historic world events. These are things that were happening in the world, not things that specifically happened to that person. So if I was going to list historic world events that happened during my lifetime, I could list things like 9/11. I could list things like the ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal. I could list things like the pandemic. Those are things that are happening in the world around me. So you're going to be looking, if you know your person lived from 1800 to 1850, that's supposed to say were, not where. And I don't know why it doesn't like it. So if you are looking for, if you know your person was alive from 1800 to 1850, I would pick something right in the middle. Okay, they were like 1800 to 1850. So I'd look around 1830 and I'd Google what were things happening in the 1830s. Okay, and I would see what I can find that was happening in the world. I'm sorry you guys don't like projects in the chat there, all right? But let's focus on the directions, okay? And if you want to talk about not liking projects or other things later, you can send me messages later. Okay? If you want to talk
I
about
like projects. Can I not do it? Is that what they want me to write or something?
you are free to write me whatever you want after we're done going through the directions, but let's keep the chat open for questions right now, okay? But if you want to talk to me and say, I don't like this, you're free to do that later, okay? All right. Education is where did they get training or go to school? Gavin, you have a question?
How much percent is this worth of your grade?
This is worth 100 points. So the same as the test. So instead of giving you guys a big final where we have questions from the whole year that's worth 100 points, and you have to study all the math we did the whole year and do a huge final, which is what they're doing in some of the buildings, we're doing a project instead, because
Well,
I didn't
Glad
think it
I'm
would.
doing your project. I'm not doing any of this crap.
Huh?
So happy I'm not taking test final.
So instead of giving you guys a big, huge final, we're doing a project instead. So I thought you guys would like that better than a huge, huge, huge test you have to study for. Okay? Yep, 100 points, which is the same as what the final would be worth, which some of the building teachers give. But I thought you guys would rather do a project than a big old test. So let's, God, I'm glad you guys are happy that we're doing a project. Awesome. All right, so let's go back to looking at the directions. The education is where did they go to school? This would be like their college, their training, anything like that. Marital and family status, were they married? Did they have kids? And you see I have all of these little italics. Those are to help you remember what all of these things mean. So occupation, what did they do for a living? All of them were mathematicians, but some of them worked for a university, or some of them worked for a company or a laboratory. So exactly specific. 3 contributions to math. This is the part that is a little bit difficult for some students. So you need to find out the specific parts of mathematics that they worked on or wrote about or did, okay? And this might be the part that you need help with. So if you get to this part and the stuff you're reading makes no sense because it's these huge, complicated math terms and you don't know how to figure it out, how to fill this out, just send me a message and send me a link to the article you're reading and say, hi, Ms. Tenebra, I'm struggling. Here is my article and my mathematician. Can you help me figure out their 3 contributions to mathematics? And then I'll help you with that, okay? So this part in particular, I wrote, make sure you ask Ms. Tenebra if you get stuck, because this part can be kind of hard, okay? Yep, so this week you have to get through E. All right. But next week, you're going to keep going. So we're going to keep going over the directions because I don't have a chance to meet with you guys in a class connect this week. Okay. But this week, I want you to get through E. So this week, but that's a good point. This week, you're supposed to get through these 2 things and go through E. So occupation. So then next week, you're supposed to finish your form and start working on your project, okay? So let's look at what that looks like. So finishing our form, we're going to get to that, okay? Good question in the chat. 3 interesting things from his or her life. This is 3 things that might have been exciting in their life. Okay? So this isn't going to be too much longer. Don't worry. We're just going to go through the directions for the project. So you're going to have time to do your schoolwork. So 3 interesting things that happened in their lives. This could be things like, oh, they moved 15 times, or they were, they had these exciting things, anything that you find out about their life. So this isn't about math, this is about their life. Bibliography is just the list of sources you use. So anytime you use a website, you should copy and paste the website right into here. Okay? Then briefly explain why your mathematician's work is important in mathematics. At least 3 sentences. This should be something that you are able to get from your articles that you read. And these 2 sections, nope, if you go now, you're not going to get credit for being here. Okay? Because I have not taken attendance yet. I do not take attendance until the end. So briefly explain why your mathematician's work is important in mathematics. At least 3 sentences. If you're going to spend 3 weeks studying a person, you should be able to tell me why they mattered. And then briefly explain 3 sentences what you find interesting about this mathematician. Be specific. Tell me why this person was interesting. Tell me why they mattered. These are the really important sections that are going to make me believe that you actually were interested in your person. Okay? And that's the whole form. That's all the research. Okay? So you want to be finished with your research by Tuesday next week. Okay? The next thing is turning your research in. To turn your research in, that you're doing next week, and that's in the week 17 activities. Please remember to keep the chat only about things that are questions that I can answer. So these other conversations aren't necessarily bad, but they are distracting and they might make me miss someone else's question. So once you're finished with your research, the way you're going to turn it in is you're going to go to week 17 activities due. So this is what to do next week. And there's only one thing. Okay, we're done with the conversation in the chat, please. The only thing to do is the let me introduce submission form. So when you click on the let me introduce submission form, you're going to fill in your name and what hour you have math. Which everybody has math second hour, so I actually need to change that. Then if you look at this, when you start filling this out, you're going to realize these are all the questions that were on this form that you already did. And you're going to go, why do I have to type this twice? Well, you don't have to type it twice. You already have all this information. So all you're going to do is you're going to copy paste this information into this form. So you're going to, as you work, fill out this form. And when you finish and you're good and you're ready and you've edited, you're going to be able to come in here and copy paste all of your answers into the let me introduce submission form. And as you go through, it's going to keep asking you, it's going to ask you all of the questions that are in here, but you're going to just copy and paste your answers into this one. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a thumbs up or a smiley face. Caleb, you have a question?
What does it mean by what hour do you have math?
That should say what grade or what class are you in, not what hour. So I'm going to fix that after we're done with this.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right. So after you do that, all right, so that's due by Wednesday next week. After that, you're going to start working on your project. So your project, you have some options. And that's up here. So your project, you can create a poster, which would be creating a poster at your house, including all of the parts of your research form. So you're going to make a poster. You can use any supplies at your house, including pictures or photographs or diagrams, and you can make a whole poster that you would use to give your presentation. You can do your oral report. You can dress up as your mathematician and tell their life story in a creative way. Like that would be like making it like a little play, pretending you're the mathematician, telling their life story. You can make a TV show and do a quiz show or a game show, anything that you want to do like that. I've seen some really, really creative things people have done with this. Or you can create slides on Prezi or Google Slides or Kahoot or anything else. If you do that, you will have to share it with me as well as creating your video. So no matter what your project is that you create, your poster or a script, because you're going to do an oral report or a TV show or your slides, You have to include all the information from the Let Me Introduce form. And your presentation has to be 3 minutes long at least. Yes, you can add your siblings if you want. And yes, you can use notes in your presentation if you want to have notes, if you want to have note cards or something that you use to help you with your presentation, absolutely do that. Note cards are a great idea. You don't have to memorize this at all. Having a note cards or a sheet of note paper to help you as you do your presentation is a great idea. So next week, after you finish the, yes, Joseph, there are mathematicians in this project from all races. Absolutely. There are very, very, very cool people from all races, from all cultures, from every continent, from every time period. I worked really, really hard to make sure this was a list that included all kinds of people. Good question, Joseph. All right, so you're going to work on your project next week. Create your poster or your presentation. Not Antarctica. You are correct, Nora, not Antarctica. So then after you've created your project, nope, she was correct. I said every continent and I was not correct because Antarctica, no one is from Antarctica. So after you create your project, you're going to give your presentation twice. The first time you give your presentation is going to be for the peer review. So back in our folder in week 18, there's 2 things due. The first one is peer review Flipgrid. So for the peer review Flipgrid, you are going to create a video describing and showing off your project. So if you make a poster, or if you are doing a presentation or an oral report, or if you're doing slides, you're going to go through it and describe it for your classmates and show it off. If you're doing a TV show or an oral report, you could just perform it once. Okay? That is due on Monday of week 18. And yes, you can work ahead if you want to work ahead, but that's due on Monday of week 18 because the next thing you're going to want to do is go watch at least 2 classmates' videos and comment on them. We are not done. If we were done, I wouldn't be talking anymore. You're going to go watch at least 2 classmates' videos. You're going to comment on them. And your comment has to include 2 things you liked and 1 thing you think they could do to make their presentation even better. Okay? Then you're going to keep an eye out and you're going to find out if anybody leaves any comments for you. Because if anybody leaves comments for you, you're going to want to go read them. Okay? So that's the first thing that is happening on week 18. Is just making your peer review video, watching other students, reading your project based on their feedback. And then by Thursday, you need to submit. So all we're doing the last week of school, because I know there were a couple questions of wait, the last week of school, and I might be busy and have these things going on. The whole last week of school, all you have to do is make your peer review video, watch and comment on 2 other videos, read the comments other students give you, decide if you want to edit your presentation, and then you're going to do your final project submission. So your final project submission, that's back in Flipgrid. And you're just going to do your 3-minute long at least video of your whole project presentation. Okay? So the last week of school, you're making 2 videos. One is for peer review. So one, you're explaining your project in a video to your peers and watching each other's. The last one is your final project video submission. And this one, you can't see each other's. This one, when you submit it, You know how sometimes with the performance tests you submit them and then they disappear? This one is like that. So you cannot see each other's submissions. Okay? So those are the only things due week 18. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but all of this stuff is in the Mathematician Research Project document. So even though everything we just went over is right here in this document. Okay, it's all right here in this one document. You just got to scroll down a lot. And then it's also in this place right here. So the two things that you want to keep a really good eye on. You want to make sure you get your project filled out this week and next week. You want to keep an eye on this timeline and make sure that you're following it. I have some links on this page that could help you with finding websites to look up some of these people. And then these 3 folders are the things you have to actually turn in to get credit. Question, are you allowed to work ahead? Yes, you are allowed to work ahead. Now that we have had this meeting and we have gone over the directions and you know what you're supposed to do, if you want to work ahead and get it all done by the end of next week, you are allowed to do that. I will warn you, there were a couple people who tried to get this project done in 1 day or in 2 days. And I'm going to tell you that if you try to do a 3-week project in 1 day or 2 days, do you think that it's going to be a very good, well done project? No, not really. So remember, it's worth 100 points, and trying to rush through and do it in 1 day is not going to help you. Okay? But I think that if you are focusing on it and you are productive, I think getting it done by the end of next week, if you wanted to, I think that you could do that because there is a lot of time built into the project because normally in the building when I do this project, we do it in 2 weeks or a week and a half, and I'm giving you guys 3 weeks. So I think it is reasonable to do it by the end of next week if you want to. But don't try to do it in 1 day. August. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to know, I'm going camping on Friday. If I can't, is it okay if I work on this week's work next week for the project?
Yup, as long as it is all turned in by the last day of school.
Okay, thank you.
Falcon, do you have a question?
Yeah, because I was asking what if my person is still alive. If they are still alive and I can find their email online, am I allowed to contact them and try and get the information that way?
Why don't you ask me, email me about who your person is first.
Oh, okay then.
Okay, so why don't you send me an email and let's see who your person is, and we'll talk about it, okay? Good question. That's a good question. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. For those who will come back and watch the recording, you are going to have an assignment you have to do after this, so make sure you do that.